this session, we will provide an overview of application datasets and demonstrate what comprises a dataset definition, how to use Data Migration Workbench to create ADS projects, as well as how to copy and compare the projects, how ADS is integrated with PeopleSoft Update Manager to deliver updates. We'll also review the best practices for ADS and provide a list of where you can find additional information on ADS. We will begin with an overview of application datasets. Application datasets, referred to as ADS, is the name given to a collection of technology used to migrate application configuration data between PeopleSoft environments. Application datasets is used as part of the selective adoption maintenance process and can also be used between two different PeopleSoft applications that have similar data structure. With the introduction of PeopleSoft Update Manager and selective adoption, customers can choose which updates or new features to apply to their application. Many of these updates were delivered in the past using Data Mover. However, Data Mover does not allow the customer to view the content that has changed and is being replaced. With an ADS project, the customer can view compare reports using Data Migration Workbench and make a decision whether or not to apply the change. For development projects, Data Migration Workbench makes it possible to include data content in projects that can be compared and copied as projects are migrated from development to QA to production. The three main parts of ADS are application dataset definitions, which are created and maintained in the Dataset Designer. Application dataset definitions define classes of application datasets. ADS projects convey the data described by the application dataset definitions. Data Migration Workbench, or DMW, provides the interactive user interface to review the compare reports, override merge or copy actions, provide approvals when necessary, as well as create new ADS projects. Let's begin by looking at the ADS flow. Before you can create an ADS project, the dataset must be defined in the source database. The ADS project created on the source database will contain all of the data content to be migrated based on the criteria defined in the project. It may consist of one or multiple datasets. The ADS project is then copied to the project repository. This project contains the dataset definition and all of the data from the source database that meets the criteria. The project is then loaded on the target system. This loads the project definition only without any data content. When you load the project on the target database, the dataset definition must also exist on the target database. You can then run the compare reports on the target. The data content from the project repository is compared to the data on the target database. When the compare process completes, the reports are available to review. Review the compare reports and update the project if necessary. This is similar to reviewing an application designer project after a project compare. Once you have reviewed and updated the project, you can copy the selected content data from the project repository to the target database. This technology provides the ability for any authorized developer to easily define application datasets, create and modify projects, and to copy and compare the objects in the project similar to the way managed objects have been copied and compared for many years. Datasets are defined in PIA. The user interface enables developers to define business objects consisting of tightly coupled data as a dataset. These datasets, which contain groups of logically related business objects, can be copied and compared following the managed object project paradigm. PeopleSoft delivers PeopleTools datasets that are managed objects, thus extending the managed object functionality to the application data. The copy and compare process is performed on servers rather than workstations, providing better performance and efficiency. Before datasets were available, Data Mover was used to import application data. However, there was no way to compare the data. ADS projects provide compare reports, and users can decide whether or not to accept the changes. ADS is integrated with Approval Framework, which can be implemented to require approvals before the data is copied. ADS also provides basic validation and allows developers to add additional validation using people code. These validations reduce any errors that may occur when data is copied. Projects are written to a shared project repository, which eliminates the need to manually copy project files. This slide provides some examples of the PeopleTools datasets that are delivered. Applications also use ADS projects to deliver updates containing new features and enhancements. For example, when you select and apply updates using PeopleSoft Update Manager, many of the updates will contain ADS projects. These projects provide the ability to run compare reports and review the content to determine whether or not the update conflicts with configurations or personalizations that have been made or applied to your database. In this topic, we will examine the structure of a dataset. Application dataset technology is used to relate data into logical objects, which helps to simplify and improve the process of understanding and migrating changes to the data. A dataset is a hierarchy of records with some collective properties. Dataset instances are inserted into projects to represent a unit of work as an ADS project. The dataset definition defines the shape of dataset instances. Dataset definitions are like record definitions. Record definitions define a group of fields that constitute a record. Dataset definitions define a group of records that constitute a dataset. Both record definitions and dataset definitions are metadata that define the shape of the data. Starting with PeopleTools 8.54, datasets support relations and groups. Relations make it possible to associate two or more datasets based on keys, criteria, and properties. Datasets that include relationships with the family property make it possible to merge the attributes when the data set is copied to the target database. Groups can be used to define records and fields that can be safely merged or that should be hidden from compare. To view the datasets delivered with your application, select PeopleTools, Lifecycle Tools, Migrate Data, Dataset Designer. When you do a search on existing dataset definitions, you will notice the Object Owner ID. This is an example using the FSCM database. PeopleTools delivered datasets are used for managed objects. They are also secured and should not be changed. We will look at the dataset pivot grid definition as an example. The general page defines the shape of the dataset. The Is Copyable checkbox indicates that the dataset is suitable for copy from one database to another. The dataset description area includes all of the records that make up the dataset and their parent-child relationship. There is at least one row for every record in the dataset definition. Related language tables are automatically added by the system and should not be deleted. A child record is a record having the same key as the parents. The child record may also contain additional keys. Application dataset definitions can contain only records that are physical tables. Relations define the relation to other datasets, including relationship mapping, criteria, and relationship properties. The Relations page defines any additional datasets to include in the relationship. In this example, the dataset definition, RCF services, is included as a relation to the pivot grid definition. Each relationship is assigned a relationship name as well as cardinality. The relation mapping section is used to define a set of foreign keys in a referencing dataset to key fields in the referenced dataset. The relation criteria section is used to specify conditions imposed on the relationship mapping between records within the dataset definition. Both the to and from records can be either the root or a child record. This criteria modifies whether or not the relationship applies. The criteria applies to all uses of the relationship. There is an underlying set of relationship APIs used by all behavioral APIs to get related objects. In cases where some but not all of the related objects are desired, relation properties are used as filters. Notice the relation properties in this example. Pivot Grid is part of the Pivot Grid family. The related objects will be inserted into the project optionally. Groups are used to define sets of records and/or fields for which some processing is required. The processing is controlled by the properties associated with the groups. Group members are records and fields that belong to the group. The record must exist in the dataset, and the field must exist on the selected record. Fields are optional. If no field is chosen, the entire record is within the group. Omitting record and field would be the equivalent to an object property. Group properties apply to the members of the group. Currently in PeopleTools 8.54, merge is the only group property available. Properties are used to designate the dataset as a managed object. Other options are Managed Object Delete Table and Managed Object Version. The validation page is used to define the extension application class that will be used by the object owner to provide custom people code to validate, transform, or merge dataset instances. The application class the user specifies on this page will extend the PTADS-DEFIN ADS validation base application class that is part of the dataset framework. Specific methods of the ADS validation base application class or its extension classes are invoked at a particular time during processing. In this topic, we will look at how developers can use Data Migration Workbench to create and migrate ADS projects. ADS projects provide the ability to move, compare, validate, and merge configuration data. Configuration data includes setup data, application data, tools configuration, and managed objects. Data Migration Workbench facilitates the configuration management process by providing the interactive user interface. As mentioned previously, a dataset is a hierarchy of records with some collective properties. Dataset instances, or the data content, are inserted into projects to represent a unit of work as an ADS project. To use Data Migration Workbench between your database environments, you will need to set up a report repository on a shared drive that is accessible to all databases. The directory should have subdirectories, which we refer to as areas. To create and maintain file locations, select People Tools, Lifecycle Tools, Migrate Data, Manage File Locations. To view the existing file locations, click Search. The path will be a folder on a shared drive. The areas are the subfolders. To create an ADS project, we'll use the breadcrumbs to select People Tools, Lifecycle Tools, Migrate Data, Data Migration Workbench. We want to add a new value. We'll name our project Demo and provide a description. And then click Add. As you progress through your data migration, the project state will be updated by the system. Initially, the status is New Project. Next, you will select the dataset name. We're going to use Pivot Grid definition. When we tab off the field, the Insert Dataset Content page is displayed. In the Search Value grid, you can select criteria to find the dataset values you want to migrate. The key fields are displayed, but you can also enter non-key fields. Many operators are available to assist with your selection if you don't know the exact value. We will change the operator to like and enter ENR. When I click Search, the results are displayed. For our project, we're going to select two pivot grids, enrollments and enrollments by course. If the dataset selected contains relationships to other datasets, the Insert Related Datasets grid is displayed. Depending on how the related datasets were defined, they will either always be included or the user will be able to select which related datasets to include in the project. When we looked at the pivot grid definition dataset, there was a relation set up for RCF services. This relationship was optional, therefore we can select it here. So we will select the related dataset. Once we've selected that, we can click Insert and Return. You will get a message that 2 instances of the pivot grid definition and 1 instance of the related datasets were inserted into the project. You can go ahead and click OK. We see the 2 instances of pivot grid with the default action of copy. We'll go ahead and save the project. Notice that the project state has been changed to created. Also notice that the dataset for RCF services has been added to the project. Now we're ready to go ahead and do our copy. We'll click the Copy to File. On the Copy to File dialog box, you'll select the project repository and the area to write your project file, and click Run. On the Process Scheduler request, you can enter your server information and then click OK. Then you can click OK to return to your project. Notice the project state is scheduled for copy to file. Click the refresh button, and you can see that our copy to file has succeeded. Now we need to sign on to the target database to do the compare and copy. On the target database, we'll select People Tools, Lifecycle Tools, Migrate Data, Data Migration Workbench. Here we'll select to load the project from File. The project we created was called Demo, so we'll select Demo and click Load. Once the project is loaded, we can start the compare. Click the Compare button. By default, the Include Language Neutral Data checkbox is selected. We'll click the Run button. You can change the server information if needed. We're just going to click OK. And we can click OK again to go back to the project. You'll notice that the current state is scheduled for compare. We can click refresh to see if it's done. When the compare is complete, the project status is updated and the compare report summary statistics are displayed. On the target database, the project content grid displays all datasets currently in the project, but prevents changes to the projects. Statistics are displayed for each dataset in the project to assist the reviewer in determining where the changes are located. By clicking one of the hyperlinks displayed in the grid, you can drill down to view the data instances in the project for each dataset. When compare or validation counts are displayed, they indicate a count of dataset instances, not the number of fields compared or validated within each instance. Clicking on a compare or validation count will set the filter criteria on the content page appropriate to the selected count. Clicking on the dataset name hyperlink will show the content page unfiltered. We'll click on the dataset pivot grid definition. The dataset content section provides the copy action and whether or not the copy has been done at the dataset instance level. Copy actions are merge, copy, or none. The merge action is only available when the dataset is part of one or more mergeable groups. The type column indicates the compare result type. The type will be difference, addition, or deletion. To view the details, click the details icon. The copy action is merge. Merge applies to the dataset instance and will copy the data based on the individual item selected made in the detailed compare report. The default is to keep the values on the target database. To view the compare report details, expand the record. First, we'll expand No Group. No Group will show all the attributes that are not included in a group. In this example, there was a field added to the pivot grid as an axis. Now we will expand the PVG core group. The only difference is the last update date time and last update Opera ID. If we are going to copy the definition, we want the most current, so we will remove the keep. To override the copy action, we just clear the checkbox. Notice that the current proposed value changes. Next, we will expand the PVG model group. The new field was added to the pivot grid. The last group is the query prompts. In this example, the prompt is visible on the source, but not on the target. This is a customization that we made, so we want to keep it. Click the Additional tab to view more details about the line items on the report, such as key names and values, as well as field names. When you click Return, you will be prompted to save your changes. We will select Yes. You can also use filters to limit the result set shown in the dataset content grid. Expand the Filters section. The filter will also alter the statistics shown for each dataset object in the project. All criteria specified are cumulative. For the message type, select which types of messages you want to display. If there are any errors, warnings, or information, the message column will indicate the total number of messages. We will click on the count for differences. Notice that the report has been filtered. Click Return to return to the project page. We've reviewed all the content and updated our project. We want to make sure that we saved our project. We'll click Save. And now we're ready to submit for a copy. Click Submit for Copy. We'll select which datasets to copy, as well as the language. The Merge Target Configuration checkbox is used to indicate that the process should observe all merge actions as defined in the project. If the checkbox is deselected, no dataset instances will be merged. The Check Integrity After Copy checkbox is used to run the database integrity check when the copy completes. We'll go ahead and click the Run button. On the Process Scheduler Request page, you can enter your server information and click OK. And we'll click OK again to go back to the project page. If Approval Framework has been configured, the request will enter the approval workflow. Otherwise, the process is scheduled in the Process Scheduler. You can use the Process Monitor link to check the progress, or you can just click the Refresh button to determine when the copy from file has succeeded. Our copy has succeeded. Now we will look at another example that does not contain a merge group. The project has already been copied to file, so we'll load the project on the target database. We select People Tools, Lifecycle Tools, Migrate Data, Data Migration Workbench. Click Load from Project, and we're going to load the train messages. Once it's loaded, we can run the compare. So we'll click Compare. We'll click the Run button, enter the process scheduler information, and click OK. And OK again to return to the project page. Notice we have scheduled for a file compare. We'll click Refresh. Compare from file has succeeded. There are two instances. One is an addition and the other has differences. We will click the dataset message. We see the message set 30,003 has differences and the message set 30,004 was added. To see the differences, we'll click the icon for 30,003. Notice that the copy action is copy. In this example, Message Catalog Entry 2 was changed and Message Catalog Entry 3 was added. We will accept the copy and click Return. To see the additions for message set 30,004, we'll click the Details icon. We can expand the message set to see what was added. We want to add these, so we'll click Return and click Save. Now we can copy. We'll select Submit for Copy, Run, and OK. OK again to return. And we can see that it was scheduled for copy from file. Our copy from file has succeeded. In this topic, we have seen how to use Data Migration Workbench. Data Migration Workbench provides the interactive interface for developers and analysts to create ADS projects that contain specific dataset instances, compare the ADS project to the data on the target database, then view and analyze the compare reports by drilling into the details. While reviewing the reports, analysts can decide which datasets to copy or merge, as well as enter overrides as necessary. After reviewing the project can be copied to the target database. In this topic, we will demonstrate how ADS projects are integrated with PUM. PeopleSoft Update Manager, or PUM, is used by PeopleSoft to deliver maintenance to customers. Some of the updates selected by the customer may contain ADS projects. If there are multiple ADS projects in the updates selected, PUM will create a composite project containing all the ADS projects and their dependents. When the change package is created in Change Assistant, it will include the steps for copying ADS files, as well as the steps to compare, review, and copy from file. The ADS flow in PUM is similar to the development environment. The major differences are that the project is delivered in an update. When the user selects an update or updates that contain ADS projects, the appropriate steps are added to the change package template created in Change Assistant. The second major difference is that you do not use the project repository. Rather, the ADS project is created in the staging directory configured on Change Assistant. The target database will run the compare against the file in the staging directory. Once the compare is run through Change Assistant, the user or analyst will use the Data Migration Workbench to review and update the project. Once they've completed their review and made any updates or overrides necessary, the copy will be performed in Change Assistant. In this demo, we will look at applying a change package that includes an ADS project. We're currently in Change Assistant, and we're in the Update Manager action. We'll select Tools, Apply Change Package. We're going to select the change package SS1. We will accept the defaults of initial pass and all steps, so we can click Next. Our target database is FSCM 921, and we select our file server. Then we can select Next. Change Assistant will do a compatibility check. When the compatibility check is complete, we can click Next. The summary shows us our Apply Summary, and we can click Finish. The change package template will get created. The first step is always a manual stop to review the change package. Notice the step to export ADS Managed Object metadata. This task has one step to copy the ADS project from the PeopleSoft image to the staging directory as configured in Change Assistant. We'll click OK to remove the dialog box and scroll down to see the other steps. You will notice under the task Running and Reviewing Managed Object ADS Compares, there are 3 required fixes. These required fixes are only necessary for a target database that's on PeopleTools 8.53.07 or lower. If the required fixes have already been applied to your target database, these will be removed when the step Running Initial Filter Queries is executed. You'll notice the other steps comparing ADS MO project from file. This will execute the compare, then there's a manual stop to review the reports in Data Migration Workbench. We will mark the step Review Change Package complete, and then click the Run icon. Notice that when the step Running the Initial Filter Queries completed, the steps for the hot fixes were removed from the project. We'll click OK at the manual stop and then continue running our project until we get to the Reviewing CP MO ADS Compare reports. Now we need to sign on to the target database to review the compare reports. On the target database, select PeopleTools, Lifecycle Tools, Migrate Data, Data Migration Workbench. For projects created in Change Assistant, the name will be the package name with PTM added to the end. We'll search for our project, SS1 PTM. In this project, there's one dataset instance, and it's an addition. Since we do not have any conflicts, we do not need to do anything else. At this point, you can return to the Change Assistant job, mark the step Reviewing CP MOADS projects complete, and continue running the Change Assistant job. Now that we have demonstrated how application datasets are used, we will review the best practices on how this technology should be used and by whom. Within PeopleSoft, dataset owners, both PeopleTools and applications, can create and deliver datasets that identify the structure and related objects for many of the tools and application features, such as pivot grids and activity guides. PeopleSoft development incorporates the ADS projects into the updates that are delivered in PUM. Customers use ADS for both PUM and development. As a PUM user, you will use Data Migration Workbench to review the compare reports generated in the change package. Use the filters available on the compare reports to view the instances and decide whether or not you want to take the displayed action. Developers can use delivered ADS datasets to create their own ADS projects to migrate data content from one PeopleSoft database to another, for example, from development to QA and then to production. If the customer creates their own custom definitions, they can use Dataset Designer to create their own datasets and then use these datasets to create ADS projects to migrate the data content. By using the compare reports in Data Migration Workbench, you will be able to see what data has been added, changed, or deleted before copying the data to the target database. If Approval Framework is implemented, reviewers will need to approve the copy before a copy from file can be performed. Now we will look at where to find additional information on application datasets. Documentation for application datasets is found in the PeopleTools 854 online help under Data Migration Workbench. Several classes are available in Oracle University training. The PeopleSoft Lifecycle Management Release 853 training will teach you how to manage customizations, apply application updates, and upgrade a PeopleSoft application. You'll use the necessary tools to accomplish these tasks, including Application Designer's upgrade features, Data Mover, Data Migration Workbench, and Change Assistant. The PeopleSoft Update Manager class covers all of the tasks required to set up and use PeopleSoft Update Manager methodology for applying update maintenance to your PeopleSoft 9.2 and above applications. You'll learn how to perform each task from installing the Oracle VirtualBox to applying updates to all of your PeopleSoft environments, as well as upgrading PeopleTools and applying PeopleTools patches. The Lifecycle Management and PeopleSoft Upgrade Manager Accelerated Release 854 class combines the 6 days of training from the Lifecycle Management course and the PeopleSoft Update Manager course into 5 days.